Well, personally, making heaters is among my top 10 steps in the sensor making process. We build our sensors using Nichrome wire, which we coil around a fishing line using a drill. The entire setup is composed of a bench press, a cordless drill, I think it's called an eye bolt, the fishing line. You don't see it here, but I also have a weight, and of course the Nichrome wire. The bench press holds the drill in place, and the eye bolt holds the fishing line, which we keep under a constant and light tension using the weight I just showed you. Now, these setup might look rather rudimentary, but it is a lot more complex than what it looks. Take this weight, for example. We tried using a piece of metal with a very well-defined shape, but once the drill starts rotating, the metal was not able to absorb and also dissipate all the energy and started shaking, which usually ends up ruining the coiling process. Then after trying various materials, we found that that water inside a container was much better at absorbing and also at dissipating all that energy. On the other hand, too much water creates more tension than needed, which reduces the diameter of the fishing line, which is similar to stretching a rubber band. Then if we coil the Nichrome wire around that stretched fishing line, when the weight and the tension on the fishing line is removed, its diameter increases lightly, but that's enough to get all the coils stuck in the fishing line. And then there's also the tension you apply on the Nichrome wire itself at the time you're coiling it on the fishing line. Also the speed of the drill and how constant that speed is, and many other details that, trust me, makes this simple looking station probably the most complex part of the sensor making process. The steps I like to follow to build a heater are: first, I like to get comfortable, or as comfortable as possible, because everything depends on that. The next step is to mark in the fishing line the desired length of the heater. Next, I like to apply a very small amount of petroleum jelly to the remainder of the fishing line so we can remove the heaters easily. The next step is to hold the wire on the eye bolt with a known length. This side of the Nichrome wire is going to become one of the legs of the heater, so this length has to be known before building the heater. In this case, I'm leaving about 6 centimeters. So with that length in mind, we just, using a paper clipper, we can hold that wire to the eye bolt. The next step is to coil the Nichrome wire. Once we've reached to the desired length of the heater, cut the second leg of the heater, which is longer than the first one, and that's based on the requirements of the heater. So then once you are completely comfortable, the next step is to start rotating the drill very slowly. Sometimes it's a good idea to practice in advance the speed of the drill. So I'm going to start with this one. And the direction for the coil, I don't know if it's relevant. I usually do counterclockwise, just because in that way I can let the nichrome wire flow over my my index finger. That's the only reason why I like to do it that way. In the first two, we can call them coils, we need to make sure that the coil is forming properly. And remember, the first step is to be as comfortable as possible. Once you know that the heater is forming properly, you can release the speed of the drill. Now, this is very common to have mistakes like this. So if this ever happens, which happens to me very often, all I do is just put the drill in reverse, undo, and then coil back again. Then the next step is to measure the desired length of the other leg, cut, and then hold the nichrome wire with the paper clip. Using this Sharpie and the rope, I'm going to try to explain a few details about the heater making process. First, you need to find the right balance of pressure in your fingers at the time you're releasing the wire. Too little pressure and the wire will coil on itself. On the other hand, too much pressure and you won't be able to slide it down. Now, since the wire itself is round, you can take advantage of that and let the wire slide on every recently created coil, just like this. Just make sure you don't lift your hand too much and also too fast, or it will coil upwards. You can keep your hands, or the hand that you're using to feed the wire, above what we can call the coiling end, and at times you can keep it at the same height, but just try never to put your hand below the coiling end. What you should never do is lower this hand below the coiling end, because if you do so, this can create voids in the coils that later cause a lot of problems at the time you are stretching the heaters. Now, if oh boy. Maybe this wasn't a good idea after all. All right. If you make a mistake, well, try to stop immediately. Do not release the tension on the wire. Put the drill, if your mistake was to have the wire coil upwards, just put the drill on reverse and undo the unwanted coils. And then just coil them back again. If you consider it to be a large mistake, if a large portion of the heater is either a coiled upwards or there was a unwanted void, I would recommend to undo that heater, cut the wire, and start another one, because sometimes if there are way too many coils to fix that wire, it's going to take longer to fix than what it would take you to do another two. On the other hand, if it's an issue of voids, and if you try to fix something like this, you can do so. You can simply push the coils upwards, but you might not see it, but this is going to leave almost invisible yet bigger coil, which at the time that you stretch the heater, that's the first one that's going to stretch, and that's going to leave a hole in your heater. So that's something you don't want. So if it's just perhaps a very small void, that's okay to fix by just pushing it upwards and just continue coiling. But if it's a large gap, I would reconsider if it's easier just to make another one, because that's going to cause a lot of problems later when you try to stretch that one coil. So that's it. Those are the easy tricks. Just find the right balance between pressure and speed. I try to take advantage of the speed. Sometimes that really helps, because again, the wire is sliding on itself, so all you need to do is just hold it just above that coiling end, and that takes care of everything. See, I'm gonna try this again, see if it works this time. Yeah, that happens when you're using rope. Alright, those are the tricks that I wanted to show you. Other than that, All you need is a lot of practice.